Obviously, it sounded a little bit different yesterday, sounded a little bit different here today. If you've been following me on Twitter at Skating Tripods, you saw that I was in the Wager Talk studios yesterday doing videos, doing their podcast. I did Dave Copeland's Las Vegas Sportsline show. Today I'll be on Brian Blessing's show. So doing the show mobile here, wanted to make sure I still got that out for our Bang the Book radio listeners, but that's why I sound a little bit different. And quite frankly, why I may sound a little bit tired here. A whirlwind of a day yesterday, but good hanging out with all those guys, and, of course, hanging out with Kelly as well. So good to get some exposure for the betting guide, for Bang the Book, for all the Major League Baseball stuff I've been doing here. And, of course, Major League Baseball season starts tomorrow. Very excited about that, which also means the return of the Bettor's Box, my MLB betting podcast, which you'll hear every Monday, Thursday from now, basically until we go back to the full show format in August once we get some college football and some NFL stuff rolling. But you can look forward to that here on Bang the Book Radio tomorrow with my first edition of the Bettor's Box for the 2019 season. Over at BangTheBook.com, we are your one-stop shop for sports betting news and information. My daily MLB picks and tips piece will start back up tomorrow with that round of opening day games. A lot of afternoon games, hoping to get that written up here tonight so I can get some lead time on that for the morning, or at least have it up there for you so that you can hop on those afternoon games. Also, daily college basketball picks from Kyle Hunter, daily NHL picks from Parker Michaels. Still covering the NBA, soccer, golf, working on the NASCAR preview here this morning. I'm sure we'll get tennis from Big Ten Watto here soon enough as well. So we really are your one-stop shop for sports betting news and information over at BangTheBook.com. So make sure that you check that out. And also check out my betting guide. Check out my season betting tips for each team, players to watch for each team. Lots of baseball content as we look ahead here to the start of the season. Finally, as you know, this and every edition of Bang the Book Radio presented by our friends over at DSI Sportsbook. BTB and the number 200 is that promo code. 100% deposit match bonus for the Sportsbook. 100% deposit match bonus for the live casino at BetDSI. It's only a game until you bet it. We start things off with our first guest today. That is professional handicapper Tony George from Doc Sports. Tony, how's it going today, man?
Going good. Didn't know you were in Vegas. Sounds like an exciting time over there at the competitors yesterday. Congratulations. And, of course, anybody listening to this podcast, a personal endorsement. It is a must daily read to check out Adam's stuff in Major League Baseball over at Bang the Book. Always some great takes, Adam, and I take a lot of things you say very seriously over there. And obviously excited, Sweet 16, NBA playoffs around the corner, NIT Final Four, first of the week, Major League Baseball tomorrow. Just an exciting and busy time in the sports handicapping arena, and I'm very geared up, coming off my best year ever in Major League Baseball. I know we're talking basketball today, but the boys of summer are back, and I couldn't be more elated, ready to rock and roll there.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to see how you follow up that season. And, of course, make sure you're checking out Tony's stuff over on YouTube. Search Tony George and Doc Sports. I'm sure you'll have plenty of free picks and plenty of free advice here during the Major League Baseball season. I guess you mentioned the NIT, CBI, CIT, and I think people have probably forgotten that that's still going on with everyone focused on the Sweet 16 games. 3 of those games tonight, a handful of them last night. Again, still some value to be had in those lesser postseason tournaments.
Yeah, how about Greg Marshall last night taking the Wichita State Shockers into number 1 seeded Indiana and winning straight up as an underdog. And TCU took care of business against Creighton. Just a little bit too much defense, and Creighton couldn't hit the bull in the ass with a handful of rocks. I found some value in the Marshall and Presbyterian game on the under 168. And, I started out, last week, Adam, Thursday and Friday with just not good days. But, doing this 27 years, we watched, we learned, we paid attention. And since then, we've been on a nice little 5-6-2 run, actually, and casing some of these smaller tournament games. And tonight provides, some more opportunity. Half of the Final Four now has been set with Wichita State and TCU advancing to the NIT Final Four in Madison Square Garden. And you got a couple of really good games tonight. One of them, which we're on, the Colorado-Texas game. And obviously there's one more game that in my mind, I'm brain farting right now. It's Escapo Lipscomb who I've won a bunch of money on this year, catching 4 at North Carolina State. So before you gear up and worry about the big boys, don't forget there's some opportunity with the little boys yet here in college basketball. We found some great value there with the home road dichotomies and, offensive to defensive rankings at home and on the road, and we found some good spots there in the NIT. We got another good one for you tonight.
Yeah, I wish I would have been able to spend a little bit more time on those, but last week with the first and second round and all the all-day basketball, the early games, stuff like that, hard to find time to talk about everything. But you mentioned last night, Presbyterian and Marshall, bad travel spot for Presbyterian, third road game in a week. You've got Coastal Carolina and DePaul tonight, third game in a week for both of those teams, 2 of them on the road here for Coastal Carolina. So a lot of good situational spots, travel advantages, scheduling dynamics here in the CIT and the CBI. Definitely things that you want to file away in the back of your mind for next season, to say the least. But, Tony, let's talk about the Sweet 16 here. We go to Thursday night, Florida State and Gonzaga. We'll just roll through these games here in chronological order as opposed to rotation order. Florida State and Gonzaga, this is a Final Four level game in the Sweet 16 with Gonzaga, 7.5-point favorite, total 146.5.
Right, and, Seminoles without Phil Coffer. His dad passed away. I think this is going to be a very, very good basketball game. And don't forget that the Seminoles last year beat Gonzaga when they were missing a player, and they beat them by 15 points. This time around, obviously, I think Tilley was the guy that was out for Gonzaga last year, and this time around, Bulldogs are healthy, and they're a good basketball team, obviously, 5-5 against the spread on the road here. I just think that I really think that one thing you're going to need to look at just overall in the Sweet 16, no matter what game we're talking about, this pretty much is going to be the theme. Points are at a premium. Anybody laying over 4 or 5 points in this thing, you want to start taking a really good look at the underdog. Leonard Hamilton's got a good basketball team. They don't play a lot of defenses in non-conference games. They're 6-0 this year in non-conference games on the overs here. And, of course, you've got the dichotomy of Gonzaga being 5-1 their last 6 non-conference games on the under. But the one thing about Gonzaga, they play some defense in the tournament. The under is 11-5 in the Bulldogs' last 16 NCAA tournament games here. I'm thinking maybe this is going to be kind of a tight one, close to the vest. 146.5 might be a little high in this one.
Yeah, we have seen this total come down a little bit from 148.5 to 146.5. So, we do see a lot of public line moves in terms of the spreads on these games, but certainly early week moves on the totals are going to be sharper in nature. So it sounds like somebody out there does agree with your assessment here. What about that revenge angle? Because I've heard a lot of different things here this week, especially being out here in town, that, some people say it matters. Some people say, look, if you're not motivated for the Sweet 16 anyway, you probably don't deserve to be there. So how much do you think that's incorporated, not just into the line, but into the mindset of people here, knowing that these two teams just met, last season, and that Florida State was the one who came out victorious?
Well, you got to look. It plays. It does play 99% of the time. This is the 1% of the time it doesn't play because, Adam, so precisely you hit the nail on the head. If you're not motivated and come out with focus and intensity in the Sweet 16, then you're poorly coached. You don't need added motivation. Obviously Gonzaga's got a little bit here, but Gonzaga just carries a premium number. They're always put a big number on them because they're a public darling to bet. If you look at their last 12 NCAA tournament games, they've only covered 3 of them. And they stuck a number here, 7.5, 7, somewhere in that area right now. And then you take a look at what Florida State's done. Their last 14 neutral site games, they've covered, they're 9-3-2 against the spread. I just think this is going to be one of those games where neither team's going to go away and quietly in the night. And if it gets to be lower scoring, which I think it will, it definitely brings those points into play despite the revenge factor. Both teams are going to come out with focus and intensity, and this is going to be a knockdown, drag-out game. And, Florida State likes to get physical. Obviously, Gonzaga is extremely well coached. I mean, let's not blow any smoke up anyone's ass here. But at the end of the day here, they're not used to facing teams like this, as physical as Florida State can be. They kind of try and manhandle you. And at the end of the day, I don't think the revenge plays into it as much as it would, say, if they were conference opponents and Gonzaga had went on the road, like they got beat by St. Mary's, in the conference tournament final here in Las Vegas, a game that I went to. But if that would have happened in the regular season, if Gonzaga would have went on the road and got beat 60-47, you better bet the next time around, if they were playing at home, getting St. Mary's, it'd blow them clear out of the stadium like they did in the regular season by 48 points. But at the end of the day, this is not that scenario. This is a year removed. Obviously it's fresh in the mind somewhat, but not like a conference loss. I don't think it plays that much. I think you got to take a look at it for what it is right here, right now.
All right, so we talk about the first game on the board here by rotation number for Thursday night, Purdue and Tennessee. This is interesting. Tennessee, 1.5-point favorite, mostly market-wide. Bovada, very public shop, as we all know. They're the only ones out there on the board with the -2 in the offshore market, which would imply that Tennessee certainly looks like the public side here in this game. Really, Tony, as I look at this matchup, as I look at what's going on in the betting market, I don't think too many sharp individuals have tipped their hands on this game yet.
Well, I'll tip it for you. You want me to tip it for you, Adam?
Absolutely. If you want to, go right ahead.
I put $500 on Tennessee at 15-1 to win it all. That's what I think is going to happen in this ball game. I think Purdue is, of all these teams left, I think they're a pretender. As Edwards go is how they go. And I think Tennessee can be. The only detriment to Tennessee is their head coach. I stated this on your show on more than one time this year, that Rick Barnes has never, ever been able to win the big one. Just has not been able to pull it off. From his days at Texas, through now, he has a team. It's kind of, what they remind me of, Adam? They kind of remind me of Texas when Mac Brown was there. Win you a lot of games, but get in the big one and can't pull the trigger until he had Vince Young. And Vince Young won that game by himself, basically, against USC when they won the title. But they've got Schofield here, which is a great player. I think they're talented across the board. They do everything extremely well, and they're very consistent at doing things extremely well. I just think that this is one here where I thought the line would be 4 or 5, and I was shocked that they weren't. I tell you, I think Purdue's in big trouble here. I really do. And I know that Tennessee blew a big lead against Iowa, but that's a good thing. They got into overtime with Iowa because they left their foot off the throttle and dropped their intensity, and that's a learning lesson along the way. And I think a lot of people remember them getting blown out by Auburn in the SEC championship game. But bear in mind, Tennessee slayed the Dragon the game before against Kentucky, and that was a letdown. And that's the game they really wanted anyway. So I think Tennessee's going to be a clear-cut winner here.
I think what's interesting here is, again, we talk about how much influence the public has in March Madness, and they certainly have a lot of influence here in the Sweet 16 as well. You talk about narratives. You talk about things that kind of shape the market. You've got a Purdue team here along with Michigan and Michigan State, 3 teams from the Big Ten still in the tournament. But the SEC has shown very well. Florida had the upset over Nevada. They still have Tennessee. They still have Auburn. They still have Kentucky. They still have LSU left standing here in this thing. I think that's kind of interesting. And maybe a little bit of a driving force behind the preference for Tennessee here is that I think the SEC getting a little bit more respect maybe than the Big Ten here in this tournament. And it's sort of akin to bowl season where if you've got a conference that starts out really well in the bowl games, those remaining conference members get a little bit of love, whereas if you have a conference that doesn't do so well, people are kind of lining up to fade those teams down the road. So I think that's an interesting angle to this game that I'm curious to see how that continues to drive the market.
Yeah, and it kind of flip-flopped on the Big 12, didn't it? They started out looking really good in the tournament, and they all just fell flat on their face come round two. And where the SEC's been relatively dominant. One thing about the SEC, if you look at all the futures left on the 16 teams, LSU's in dead last at 75-1, which surprises me a little bit. This is a team, obviously, we know about their coach, basically getting fired. He's suspended without pay. He's fired. He broke the rules. Let's not kid anybody, But at the end of the day, for them to continue to play the way they have, despite, if anybody in college basketball has an off-court distraction or something that, of that nature, it definitely, in my opinion, is LSU, and they have been able to prevail despite that, and obviously now they're running into, you have a coach with a little experience. We'll talk about the Friday game, but they're going up against Tom Izzo, so they're catching a bunch of points. We'll see what happens, but at the end of the day, the SEC is a very strong basketball conference, and Tennessee's one of the better teams in there, along with Kentucky, and they're all still standing, and the numbers reflect that, except with LSU as well.
Well, and on the flip side here, we move on to the next game, again, going chronologically here, Texas Tech and Michigan. Michigan, 1.5 or 2-point favorite, depending on where you look. The sharper of the offshores, Pinnacle, bookmaker at 1.5. Some of the more public shops, Bovada, BetOnline, -2. So, again, maybe tipping your hand a little bit here in terms of what we're seeing in the betting market from the public. But, Tony, Texas Tech, the only Big 12 team left standing. The thing is, they're the best Big 12 team, so it does make some sense.
It does make some sense, and I'm really going to reserve comment on this one. I did get a chance to email you. This is my NCAA tournament game of the year. So I'm not really going to tip my hand on this one, but I got a very, very strong opinion on this. This is my strongest opinion of the tournament. Obviously, I haven't seen the Elite Eight and the Final Four, but those numbers are usually sharp. But I think there's a clear-cut advantage for one team in that game, Adam, and I'm going to go ahead and yank the trigger on this one and give my clients a big 7-unit play here.
No, that's perfectly fine, completely understandable. The one thing I do want to touch on here is, we talked about Florida State and Gonzaga, and we talked about Mark Few being a great head coach, Leonard Hamilton, great recruiter. Maybe he's a better coach than we've given him credit for here on the show. We talk about Matt Painter and Rick Barnes, two guys that, don't know their asses from a hole in the ground in the NCAA tournament. You've got, this is a premier, you want to talk about Final Four level coaching matchups. Chris Beard and John Beilein, it doesn't get much better than that.
No, it's a couple of good coaches and a couple of good teams going at it. There's a couple of keys in real tight games like this that you look, and this one here, all the stars lined up for me. But, and that's one thing we haven't touched on other than me mentioning the fact that Rick Barnes is terrible. But, he's just got a team. He may be like Mac Brown did, and when Texas beat USC, he just has such a good team that it can overcome some of those deficiencies. That being said, you really need to take a look at coaching right now. Just like I mentioned in the LSU Michigan State game, you just got an assistant, been made a head coach, and now you've been tasked with getting your team in this position, and now you're coming up against one of the legendary coaches in college basketball, and Tom Izzo. And I will tell you that's a mismatch on paper right there. Before you even start looking at stats, numbers, man-to-man matchups, all the efficiency rankings, you got to take a look at the coaching as well. And it's going to be a difficult task for a coach going up against a Tom Izzo or John Calipari or Mike Krzyzewski or Roy Williams. These guys aren't intimidated. Their team isn't intimidated by being there because they're well coached. They're coached up for these type of games. As a matter of fact, you take teams like the big ones we talked about, Adam, with this coaching. They've been coached and groomed the entire season since they started playing, Tallahassee JUCO in the preseason, in the non-conference schedule. they've been groomed and prepped to be in this position they are in right now, so nothing surprises them, and they don't get the deer in the headlights routine because of that coaching. And that does come into play here in the Sweet 16 moving forward.
All right, we got one more game to talk about here on Thursday. And, if you like offense, if you like up-and-down basketball, this is not the game for you. But it should still be a very interesting one between Oregon and Virginia. And we are seeing this total go up a little bit from 118 to 119.5 or so. So, obviously, this is a very, very low total for any college basketball game. So not a big surprise to see money hitting the board on the over. Spread in the 8.5 range, pretty much market wide out there. Virginia the favorite. And this is one where we kind of have to ask ourselves. When we talk about Tony Bennett being a very good head coach, we talk about what Virginia's accomplished in conference play in the ACC. When it comes to the tournament, Virginia has some issues. And you sort of wonder here, was this line intentionally set in this 8.5 range? Are the odds makers telling us something here? Or are people just not ready to buy into Oregon? It's a strange game, I think, for me. This is one where I really can't explain why the line is where it is.
Well, it's public perception. There's a couple of things at play here. Number one is a perceived low-scoring game, which this is going to be a grind-out game, brings points into play. And Oregon's getting a bunch of them. Really are. And I will tell you something about this game when we talked to coaching. When I was in Lincoln, Nebraska, lived there for 25 years, did radio in Lincoln, Nebraska for almost 10 years. I had the opportunity to host the Dana Altman show. And he was over in Omaha running Creighton at the time when they were in the Mo Valley. And Dana Altman is a class act and a tremendous, tremendous basketball coach. He put Creighton on the map, dude. This guy can flat out coach, won a bunch of Mo Valley titles, had him in the Sweet 16 with lesser players in terms of talent, and yet we're beating teams with that talent. The talent level that he had, he was beating some of the big boys, and he took on all comers. They tried to schedule big schools like Kansas and back in the day. Dana is a great head coach, and he'll have his players coached up. But the other things at play here is now you have a momentum killer, which concerns me because Virginia is well coached. They're an extremely good basketball team. Unlike years past, they have a threat on the perimeter. A couple of threats on the perimeter where they're able to knock down threes and get on a roll, scoring points, which before they just grind you out 61 to 55, 58 to 47 type ball. They're not that team this year. They've expanded a little bit, especially offensively, which is a good job of coaching. But at the end of the day, nobody hotter than Oregon. But now you have this break. And that can be a momentum killer, and that's a concern there because I will tell you that Virginia is the more talented team in this matchup.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and something I haven't heard too many people talk about, so I'm glad you brought that up. It's one of those things you talk about maybe going into the All-Star break or something like that in another sport where you don't want to stop playing. You're in a good rhythm. No. You're in a good groove. You're everything is working the way it should be. Really offensively and defensively for Oregon because they've really maximized their offensive possessions as well, playing all these slow-tempo games. You don't want to stop playing. So I think it's an excellent point that you made there and something not really being considered. And, again, like you said, the low total implies points in play, which is why this line does look high. But, again, they don't keep building these huge places that people are staying in out here because odds makers are idiots.
No, and as much as I love Dana Altman and respect him, just because I wouldn't say a personal relationship, but a business relationship with him and had opportunities to visit with him over the years, off camera, so to speak, for lack of a better term. I think I think this could be the game for them where the rubber meets the road. Now, if it goes according to script, as we alluded to, in a very low-scoring, grinded-out game, Oregon's got a real shot at covering this game. I would be doubly shocked if Oregon was able to pull off a straight-up win here. I really would. I think Virginia is that good. They can be. Like you said, it is a very interesting game because it's got a lot of different storylines at play. But catching 8.5, if you look, 67% of the money's went on Oregon. I right now they haven't. The public really hasn't been duped into laying it with Virginia here, but Virginia with 3 losses this year. It's this year. The one thing that would put me on, and I'm going to stay away from this game. I'm just going to watch it. I'm not going to get near this one, because Oregon's putting up more points their last 5 games, and they are allowing 57 points per game. And if you take a look at Oregon across the board, 71 points per game versus 68, 47% from the floor versus 46, 42% versus 34% from three-point range. Free throws, 75% versus 68%. They're better in rebounding, 59 rebounds a game versus 54. Against the road, away from home, Oregon's 12-8 against the spread. And of course Virginia's 14-4. But at the end of the day here, if you took a look at the stats and didn't see the line and didn't know this was a Sweet 16, and you took a look at the stats that I just gave you and then circled the team, you'd circle Oregon. Then you look at the line and see they're catching 8.5, and you think, wait a minute, there's a weasel in the woodpile somewhere. So that's one of those games I'm going to stay away from and just sit back and watch. But I think Oregon can compete here.
Last thing I want to ask you about here, Tony, you're having a great season in the NBA. It's been very profitable for you, certainly looking at the first halves especially, something you've talked about a lot here on the show. We got about 2 weeks left of the NBA regular season, so teams jockeying for playoff position, teams trying to get into the playoffs, and then teams just kind of looking forward to this thing being over, going on vacations, all that type of thing. So does anything change for Tony George because we only have 2 weeks left in the season and, even more extreme variance in motivation levels than we usually have?
Well, you have extremes on both sides of the spectrum. And tonight, I've only had, I think, 6 first-half line play losses the entire season. We're up 112 units. I think we're up like $8,700 for a $100 player with my NBA package. I'm having one of my best NBA years of the year. Last year, I finished at plus 78 units and ranked 9th in the country, and I've already surpassed that. I've done that being very low volume, 1 play a day. As a matter of fact, on a first-half line play tonight, there's a game involved. I have my game of the month, a big 6-unit play tonight with another first-half line play where I had Denver last night, first-half line, in a scenario where Detroit has been on the road and Denver, coming off a loss against Indiana. Well, guess what? Detroit scored 9 points in the first quarter. It was an easy first-half line win. But at the end of the day, the teams where the games matter is playoff atmosphere right now. It really is. The teams that are right in the hunt, say in the top 8, maybe 1 out of 9th or whatever, 1 out of 8, 1 game out, these games matter. The stats don't lie. You can count on these teams showing up. The other ones you avoid like the bubonic plague, and which means this. If you're spreading it around with more than 1 wager a day in the NBA, you've got to find a game with some meaning and handicap those stats and then look at the situational analysis, which is what we're doing here in my program over at Doc Sports. Now, there's about 2.5 weeks left in the season, 7 or 8 games for a lot of these teams. There's going to be days now where I'm going to pass. You wait for the playoffs. You don't get greedy this time of year. I build up, it takes a hell of a lot of work to build up 112 units for a season to the good. I'm not going to start blowing it all away here the last 2.5 weeks by, I don't put out selections for sale just to sell picks. I try and sell winners. And we've done that consistently in the NBA all year, and I'm not going to change my philosophy now. If it's not there, we're not going to take it. I would probably be surprised, Adam, if I put out any more than 5 or 6 plays, including tonight's play, between now and the end of the season. And I'll live to fight in the playoffs. So my advice would be, don't spread it around. Stay low volume. If something doesn't look tasty, don't take it. If it looks too tasty to be true, don't take it. Expect the unexpected with all these other teams. Players, star players that are banged up aren't going to give 100%. They may even sit them. Coaches are looking at, that aren't on the hot seat, are probably going to look at their bench a little bit here the last couple of weeks when games don't matter, and take a look at some players that haven't played that much this season and see how they may fit in or not fit in moving forward. So it's a very dangerous landscape right now, and you got to be careful. Stay low volume.
Tony George, professional handicapper over at Doc Sports. What's going on over there right now, Tony?
Well, as I mentioned, we've got a huge play tomorrow in the Sweet 16. We've hit, I think, 6 out of our last 8 in college basketball, and the NBA has been steady. Only 3 back-to-back losing cards in the NBA since December 28th of 2018. That's documented. We got a 35% off special over there. When you go over there at the website and click on my name, you'll find my packages on the right-hand side of my page. We have a promo code called TGNBA35. You just type in that promo code and get 35% off the rest of the year, including all the playoffs in the NBA. Gets you about $65 a month for one of the top-rated NBA cappers around, Adam. And, I don't blow my horn a lot on your show. I haven't all year. I never do. But we're having a hell of a year, and you get 35% off. That's TGNBA35, and it's posted on the site, too, on my page, what the promo code is. And, of course, baseball, we've got a big early bird discount over there for that, plus 146 units last year in Major League Baseball. Fired up about that. And the only thing I'm not looking forward to is saying that this is our last show until August together. But other than that, a lot of good stuff going on over there at DocSports.com.
Yeah, definitely. I've appreciated having you on the shows here over the football and the basketball seasons. And as you mentioned here, we'll be transitioning our format next week, changing things up quite a bit. So, Tony, thank you so much, man. I appreciate your flexibility over the course of the season to move some things around at times as well. And thank you so much, man. Best of luck this baseball season.
All right, Adam. Take care of yourself, and we'll talk to you in August.
There you go. There's Tony George, professional handicapper over at Doc Sports, at TGeorgeSports on Twitter. And make sure you check him out for baseball season here as well. Well, as we talked about, the Sweet 16 begins tomorrow night. 4 games Thursday, 4 games Friday. No better time to head on over to PropSwap.com/BTB. See what's going on over at PropSwap. See what's available out there in the marketplace for not just these NCAA tournament futures, but also some NIT futures. You've got Major League Baseball props and futures. You've got NBA futures and props. Lots of stuff posted over there for you to check out. Sellers offering better prices than you could find out there in the marketplace at any offshore, any brick and mortar. Buyers looking for good opportunities at this time of the year. So head on over to PropSwap.com/BTB. See what's available. Get involved. Guarantee some profit on your futures. Pick up some futures here for the rest of the tournament and the NBA and NHL playoffs as well. Once again, PropSwap.com/BTB.